Welcome to the DNA Coating Lab. I'm Sean Kelly, the owner of DNA Surface Concepts, and for 15 years now, I've been doing ceramic coatings, industrial grade coatings, all types of material coatings in the nano world, of course. And I'm gonna walk you through in this video what makes what we do, how we do it, and the reason we do it so special, and leaving you with the answers you need to understand why we're the top standard in the industry when it comes to surface protection. So what we'll walk through in this video is the abundance of time that's spent on prepping, washing, detailing, coating, and even just that QC and QA to make sure that you're assured as a customer to get the best result for the delivery of your new DNA Easy Clean surface protection system. We'll also bring you through the aftercare products that are so important to getting the most out of the coating that you invest into, and of course the best experience. So let's go through those things right now. Okay, so first up here on the hard top, there's quite a bit of surface area on the gel coat. So first thing that you need to do is always inspect. And even at a factory level, brand new gel coat is not perfect, but it's more about getting it ready for the perfect bond of the coating and making sure that everything's clean. So while a manufacturer may put out a nice finish, it's not always there and ready for the ceramic coating yet. Now, on the hard top, you'll notice there's actually about 4 to 6 materials, and sometimes even more, meaning different plastics, different types of metals, and different types of gel coats. So I'd even give a guess there might be 6 to 8 here. The one thing that we have to keep in mind is that they all wear differently because they all have UV inhibitors packed into them differently. So the substrates themselves are different. We still will work with only a few coatings up here, but once we have actually prepared everything through polishing, strip washing, and then of course, when you look at this, within that strip washing, you're gonna have plastics and metals and different surfaces that you also have to deal with cleaning differently. And at the very end, of course, once you're done with all of that cleaning, you still have to go through a final chemical prep. But within that, you're gonna work with 2 coatings once you're done. 90% of what we do is working with our DNX Advanced Exo Coating. Now this is a very rich resin, nano formulation. It's been around about 3 or 4 years with us, and it really came into the States with us. Now, this product here blew me away at first because I've worked with every big competing product in the industry, and I know how it's difficult sometimes or too easy. And if it's difficult, your workers are getting tired. If it's too easy, it's probably not gonna last very long. This is a wonderful balance, and it's also layered on gel coat like this, but it can be laid wet onto non-skid or let's say vinyl surfaces. So there's a way to manipulate the type of application that you use. Now for aluminum metals, we have one of the top products that I've ever worked with. This is exactly what we're putting on our outdoor kitchens and stainless hardware right on the ocean that are sitting stable all the time or stationary. And the Permex high performance coating is a leave-on coating. So it is built to be flexible, very glossy, and also to be a mono layer, left alone, don't touch it, leave it wet type of application. That's what makes this so good at protecting the anodized aluminum. Now on aluminum, you can do that, but you can't do it on the polished stainless. So here we go with another mini process, and that's gonna be for our little polished pieces that you might find around here. So here, even again, we're gonna have to wipe on, wipe off, but it's a separate process. And when you get done with all of this, just this one section, you've added a good handful of hours. It's not crazy to say that it can take 15 hours just to do this hard top once it's prepared. Keep that in mind as you look at all the different things on your new vessel. There is a product for everything, and they all should be dealt with on their own case basis. So that's it for this hardtop zone. So along with this large hardtop, we have the buggy top to this full tower. And one thing that we know, this is really hard to get up. Of course, standing next to it doesn't look like it, but once this baby's bolted up to the top, it's hard for somebody to climb up this and actually maintain this. And even for me, being the ninja that I am, it's still difficult. What we did here, which was a really great idea, was to add yacht armor onto this. So all of the gel coat on this top is covered in a piece of yacht armor. Now, once we're done with that, of course, we've got plastics, we've got paints. All these things are going to be considered the same exact way around the whole vessel. Permex onto the metal. We've got DNX coating under here on the custom blue paint. And of course, we've got another product we call 7640 on this stainless metal, but that's really the whole entire package. And again, this right here is about 25 hours of work in itself, almost to the end. That's a lot of work to just go into one component, but that's what yields you the years and years of service in that protection from that coating. Okay, so in addition to the hardtop zone, we have the underside. Now, challenging area for anybody that's doing the coating themselves. When the guys get ready to do this, this is one of their least favorite just because of the position they have to be in to buff out and level that coating. This one has this custom beautiful blue paint on it, but we also have a lot of different things going on here. So we have acrylics, we have different plastics and metals. Again, our T-top metal. So we'll have DNX being used on most of that, and just referring back to Permex for our high solids, high performance coating for the long-term protection of that anodized metal. When we get into moving down the T-top itself here, we've got the window here that's made from the easy to see Y. We also have the vinyl trim on it. So those two materials are different. Now, again, we're gonna treat this like a vinyl surface. We're gonna elect our DNX coating wet on that, so that resists all that black buildup, anything really that gets stuck to it while it's just sitting outside or being used. Salt not being the issue. Now, once we move down into this console, all boats can be similar but very different. We've got electronics behind the DIN cover here, or the dash cover. We've also got different plastics here. So again, this is just going to become a application style using our DNX product. And you'll notice that with the shiny or high polished metals, that's going to be another thing that we usually do at the end or during the coating, but towards the end of our process. Once you've done all these surfaces multiple times, we're going to have a helm box to deal with. Now this is where it starts to get a little more intricate. We've got station with multiple boxes and drawers in it. Okay, so now we have a helm box. This is another component to the whole entire project, but it's also at the end, going through and carefully wiping and drying, and then doing a final. We're usually doing 2 different panel wipes or final prep wipes in every single box and also every single surface. So you're consuming some time by doing that. When we move in to start doing vinyl, this is where we're going to time things. That is dealt with on its own. Besides the gel coat, that's going to be standard 2 coats with DNX as the base, we have this marine board in here, or starboard as they would call it. So the marine board plastic here, even though it's made to be easy clean and it's extremely durable, guess what? It stains as well. We actually add a product that we haven't shown you yet, which is the Infinex. Now the reason we have Infinex and it's in a larger volume can is because, number one, it's a better value coating, because we're normally using this inside of hatches where you're gonna expend a ton more product. But it's also a lot better actually on these type of plastics and on the interiors of things. So from a cost perspective, we're still trying to be mindful of that. We're using the Infinex, but it's a better suited product for marine board and plastics. So we'll go through every single one of these drawers. Remember, every time we want to prep something, it's not just the wash down with the eraser scrubbing and the different detergents. This box will basically be done at 80%, and that final 20% of the surface with the vinyl upholstery will be left to the end. So we're timing this job properly, because if you coat this the way we do, which is a rub on, kind of leave on, we actually manipulate it to get the right sheen. We can kind of pick the sheen we want, but once we leave that there, you can't have people, you know, crawling all over it and putting their hands on it while it's wet. So this is another thing that we do very beautifully, which is project management and knowing where to move and where we're gonna be at the end of the day with time, so that we don't mess up the work or do something that'll damage the actual material on that boat. Okay, so let's move into some of the hatches. Now, every fishing vessel, especially these serious ones like this, are gonna have sometimes elaborate hatches and storage compartments. That makes for a lot of work later, doesn't it? When you're trying to clean them and there's a lot of debris or filthy fish guts stuck in them, and we know that. So what we focus on here at DNA, our standard really comes down to what the user experience will be for you through our own experience. Been there, done that kind of thing. Everybody knows that in the future, this paint that is more like a matte finish, right? A lot of times used in bilges and kind of unfinished areas. Well, that paint's gonna absorb stains over time, right? So years down the road, of course, it's gonna be harder to clean every time and it starts to get discolored. So that one little thing goes a long way with us knowing that we can fix that problem and we can keep the boat like looking brand new and also always clean it up. But in here also there's finished smooth gel coat, we've got metals, and then we have the rubber gaskets. So when we're here, almost every vessel, okay, it's very rare that we don't, almost every vessel, the anchor is being deployed and pulled out so we can get to every square inch of that locker. And then of course, same thing applies again. We're using multiple processes of the application, different kinds of coatings. So this is another Permex coating area. And we actually make sure that we're applying the product to every inch of this. You know, some people can go real quick and just rub this on. Really wanna make sure to take time and do the detail work behind these knuckles. You wanna make sure that you do this well in regards to how you time this just the same, because if you close this with a wet gasket, you're gonna have that stuck to the trough itself. So we have to time the hatches. So again, project planning is so important with us not to mess something up. So the whole thing is really a well-oiled and well-timed machine to deploy all these coatings into the right areas and the right area or the right way. That way we get the most out of them. Because anybody can wipe on and wipe off a coating. That is easy to do on the entire vessel. But when you know how much more performance and long-term durability you get using the coating properly and letting it build, that's where you're gonna win the most. And that's again, one of the reasons why the DNA standard is one of the top in the industry. Now, just kind of jumping over this way, you notice we have a ton of upholstery here. Again, a lot of upholstery to take care of and clean, but that's something that we do at the end. So really what it breaks down to is once we've done all of our smooth gel coat, our large hatches, and the main large areas that you can see here with metal and paints, we're gonna go ahead and leave these wet coating areas for the very end. Now, even though we cover the floors while we're working completely, after they've been washed, we're still gonna have to prep them one more time because no matter what, they're never just clean enough. And once you do a coating on the deck the way we do, you really can't go backwards. And of course, we're leaving the non-skid towards the end and always making sure that we're really clean. So even though we cover the decks the whole time, we're gonna actually pull those sheets up at the end and give it one final cleaning and scrubbing. Now we call it dry cleaning at that point, but it's to ensure that our process doesn't get fouled up, because once we deploy that coating, we're not going backwards. And that's also, you have the option of wet coating for a very long term, or you have the option of wiping it off. And we can talk about why we do that in another video. But right now, we have almost all the boat done. So we have the ability to basically say, okay, let's get to our detail. And we're gonna talk a little bit about what we put on at the end to give it that extra smooth finish that everybody's looking for. And that's one thing that we take the time to do as well. So it's not just the coating, but it's actually the top detail that we'll finish with at the end. So let's get into some of those products that we add. Okay, so just for a good example, we've got a large storage hatch up here with this lounge seat. Now, this is not refrigerated, but if it was, it'd have a chill plate in it, and we would opt for our Permex coating, which would be perfect for that metal. But this one doesn't have one. What it does have is a large organizer in here. So here we are back at the starboard, where we're gonna elect to use our Infinex marine product. Inside that hatch, in the liner, also Infinex Marine. And then of course, we're gonna deploy that here under the lid, but we're gonna wipe this off. And that's one thing that we do. We have one finish outside the gasket. We have a different type of finish application, I should say, on the inside of the gasket. We have another on the very, very bottom liner here, which is gonna be the most durable. And the reason that we want a wet coat inside the liner is because of all the traction it's gonna get, all the abrasion it's gonna get, just basically all the wear and tear it's gonna get. We've got the gaskets here as well. So we have our double seal here. Bahama does a great job with that. But double seals, both gonna be done. And really that product, that surface absorbs the coating anyway. So it just comes down to working that in until we see the reaction happen and then leaving it there. Now, Once this is all done, of course, we're gonna leave it open, but here again, we've got hinges that are the struts that are gonna open that. So all those things are considered. And when you start to look at a vessel that has 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 hatches in this size range, it gets to be a lot of work. And depending on the depth of those hatches, and even if they have compartments within it, you're gonna see a lot of time and material tied up in that. And I know for a fact that the one I'm standing on too, in the battery compartment, there's a whole other acrylic access door in there that they use to get into some batteries sometimes. There's a lot to do in there. So there is a ton of time, and we know that there's a lot of extra work to be done inside those hatches. So it's really easy to see how we can wrap up a ton of time into these hatches just to get to every square inch. Remember, we know what it's like to see the filth grow, mildew, bloom, fish guts get stuck, and just anything else. The main point being, with all storage compartments, you're gonna see a lot more time wrapped up, and definitely a higher use, a higher mill use of the coating itself. So along with all the work that we've done so far, now we're here at the final detail. Now, our team will go through a QA process at the end. But during the job, they're also doing their quality control, our QC. What's important at the end is to make sure that we get all the little things that everybody misses, even though they are trying to crush it during the whole entire scope of the project. There's always something little. So this is where the quality assurance check comes in, followed by the detail, of course. And what we're doing is we're using 3 of our products to get it really smooth for that finish that everybody wants to feel on their new boat. When we do this, this will give us that sacrificial layer that's on top of that really hard base 2 layers. And of course, whatever other wet coatings and other things in hatches that we need. But this is all about having that first slick sacrificial layer on every single square inch of this vessel. So how do we do that? Well, we know that going out into the sun directly, this hardtop and this gunnel cap are going to be exposed to a lot more persistent pressure from heat and of course the UV. So we'll elect to use our Luminex Diamond Wax. This is one of the best ceramic waxes that you can get. We've had this in our arsenal for many years, and it is an absolute reliable product. It's very easy for the team and for even a consumer to use, but it's very effective at keeping things icy slick and of course keeping things from getting onto that coating. The next product that we're gonna do on the remainder of our walls and our console and in our hatches, a lot of the product that we use on, I'd say 85% for our finished detail, is gonna be the Regenix. And that's what we call our blanket protection. So it's a little bit easier to use and work with. You can spray this out and rub it in and then level it out to a fine finish. But that's gonna go over top of our cushions, all of our gel coat besides that hard top and gunnel, and the engines, even down to the hull sides. Now, for the finer materials where you want to just breeze through real quick because you're at the point of really where there's not much else you can put on top of it. Remember, you can only coat and add so much to a surface. Well, we're talking about screens. We're talking about that windshield. We're talking about the electronics and even just the Permex on the metal, which really is already kind of smooth, but we'll use our slick because it's so fast to use. And of course, it doesn't leave as much of that rich finish behind, but it makes it really slick. Regenix is really a top performer when it comes to richness, but it takes a little work. So for our faster, slicker, and more clear surfaces, we're gonna use our slick. Now that we've had all this done, every single square inch, inside, outside of hatches, cushions, metals, decks, with a top coating of this, there is almost no way to miss a spot within this process. So when you start to look at how well we can put together this whole entire project to get you to the best possible standard in protective coatings, this is how we get there. There's a couple other things that we're gonna now go over, and that of course is how are you going to get the most out of the DNA surface protection system, and that's with the aftercare product that we give you. So now here we are. We're in one of the control and power areas, I guess you would call it, inside this console. This is gonna be where you have a lot going on. In a manufacturer, a lot of times they try to actually clean up but that's for a detailer to do at the end. And the reason is there's a lot of intricate wiring and stuff that collects dust. So what we do here is actually go through with brush and vacuum. We actually take out everything we can find that might have been left behind. Bahama does a really good job, by the way, at cleaning up. So now you'll notice what I'm talking about. Inside of here, you'll see all of these amps and inverters, control boxes, wiring, and of course, there's even this access door. Now, that's a lot for you to take care of, and somebody's gonna have to take care of it, because no matter what you do, you're gonna deal with needing to clean in here later. So there's lots of different surfaces, but we utilize a lot of times our Regenix all the way down in here, and that's good enough for in here. That'll stay in here for a long time, but it makes it really easy, technically, to slide things and yourself to get in there. And that's what we're trying to do, is just to make it easy to clean, and of course, take care of lowering that maintenance effort for you. All right, now, this is something that is not on every fishing vessel center consoles. We have this under gunnel, this kind of recessed area. Now, underneath here, we actually have that flat finish, the unfinished area. And it's really important that you know that that's gonna grow all of the mildew in the summer. It always does. So we actually utilize our Regenix in there all the time. And that just gives us a non-stick. By the way, you can replenish that anytime during your details. That's what's great about that product. You can just spray it up in here. But you'll notice speaker boxes, rod holders, you know, we can see these. In a lot of vessels you don't. So this just creates extra maintenance. Now we do put a coating on that. We have to wipe it off because it does rainbow like anything. It's a high polished metal, but we also will hit that with some Luminex ceramic wax, which I can tell it's nice and smooth. And all down the gunnel in this particular vessel, you have a lot to do with just cleaning and detailing, and of course coating, just to make sure that they have the same experience here as they do everywhere else in the vessel. Okay, so here we are. We have another type of finish here. Now, whether it's a varnish or an epoxy clear, one thing I can tell you is they both can take ceramic coating. DNX, again, this is gonna be one of those things where you're here, every bit counts. Underneath, we've got the metal, we've got metal here. This is gonna be normally a wipe on, wipe off. To be clear, when we do that with this type of coating, it doesn't stay on there forever. And that's only because these coatings can't anchor into this surface. They're pretty fine and smooth, not much to bite into. So we do that in the beginning, but we also will use our Luminex or Primer X over the time of maintenance to be able to maintain, take little water spots, light corrosion off. But the stainless metal is gonna be always the thing you're gonna take most care of and probably see the need for a little bit of maintenance sooner than everything else. It's simply due to the material itself. Now, once we've finished with all of these details here in the back, we've got ourselves a really deep bilge in this Bahama 41, which then again lends itself to more coating work and more detailing work. Let's take a look at that one. Okay, so here we are, the finished basement of the Bahama 41. This is a great setup. Not every manufacturer does this either, but when they do, it just means that you've got a door now to take care of, and of course, the unfinished surface down there below in the bilge. We also have our pumps, reservoirs for different things. Again, more wiring underneath here. And generally, when you take a look way back in there, you'll actually see there's a whole other space that needs to be dealt with. And that's another thing that you're gonna have to clean in the future. So we do implement the use of our products inside this entire cavity, making sure that everything is, once again, smooth and non-stick. Sometimes if the bilge is huge, wide open, and there's a smoother paint, we'll actually use our Infinex ceramic coating in here, but we don't always do it. It just really depends. It is an election you can make. If you'd like to add coating in the bilge, we can do that. But it does absorb a lot when it's a very flat finish. So it is an additional thing that we can do, but it's not the standard. However, we do use Regenix everywhere in there, and you can maintain with that as well. All right, now we always mention about the hatches. Under here, we'll just breeze through this. We've got bait wells. Of course, you know what happens in those. We coat those wet inside. Probably have a wash down sink over there as well. But anything that opens, closes, has surface area, we're gonna coat it. Now, this engine package here that we have back here is a really nice setup. It's very simple. let's talk about the engines and how we do those as well. So here you have triple setup of the Mercury Ooh-Wee 10s. And these things are outstanding when it comes to how clean that they can be rigged. Love this setup right here with the worm gear steering. Makes it really nice and clean back here. So few different materials. Once again, we've got some plastics, different kinds. We've got some powder coating, got some paints. So the engine package itself will be done entirely on its own. And it is truly a job of its own. But we'll wet coat a lot of things. We'll do multi-layers. When we get down to these pieces here that are powder coated and even the chaps, lower units, there's a couple options. On anything below the cowling, we're doing a wet coating. That means that we're actually gonna leave the product there and it's a lot thicker. So it can take all that abrasion that the water will give it, and also is much more long-term because of that. The plastics kind of absorb and allow you to just leave a nice sheen on it. So that's a wet coat. Of course, the tubes are also the same, but we have the other option, which we'll talk about once you get all the way to the lower units, on how to keep the paint on a lot better. So we have a couple different coatings we can do there, and that's kind of where we start to do the upgrades. But those are things that, of course, you'll know in the beginning, and you can elect them if you will. So here we have a much more upgraded type of outrigger system. Now this here, we treat just the same as our anodized aluminum on the T-top. And of course, this is gonna get the Permex high performance coating on it wet. Now these would have obviously been off the vessel, put them on workhorses. We've got all the space in the shop to do that. And you do have to have some timing here too, because of how you're gonna grab them and set them on things. So multiple stages. Again, it's just more time consuming. And of course, any loose cushions that were on this vessel are gonna be sent over to the large carpeted work tables, where we can actually work with them out in the open, right at the eye level that we need to. So there is another bit of time going into just unpacking and repacking the boat. And again, we've been through this whole project now together, and it's really easy to see how you can stack so much time into this. It's just because of the level of care, quality, and detail that we do with our DNA system. Okay, now that we're down on the ground, we've got, of course, our chaps, brackets, lower units, and everything that's underneath running gear wise. You know, not every boat again has this, but pull-out ladders. These are all things that you're gonna wanna treat, and this looks gorgeous once it's done. These things already wear really hard because of where they sit. Think about that, they're right at the water, and they will wear really fast. Now back here, we've got a really nice heightened sheen here, and that's because, again, of our wet coating, but yet it keeps a natural look, just a very much more rich appeal to it. Lower units. So we're either gonna be using a very high solids coating, or we now have the technology with the Armis Hull Pro to really keep the paint on because of the ceramic epoxy that it is, but that also gives you a much higher performing surface for the drive units. Because we're able to envelope everything in a coating inside and out of every nook and cranny. Again, what does that get you? It gets you that easy clean experience. Engine cowlings we can usually get up to 18 months or 2 years with proper maintenance. And sometimes I've seen it go even further if you're gonna be indoor rack stored, but you should expect about 2 years of that coating or more with proper maintenance. And if the current word on the street is that you're only getting 6 months, 8 months, or a year, you really have to start looking at why. The standard is 2 years. And that is simply due to the fact that we're using some of the best product out there and prepping and applying it as well in the correct format. One other thing that we just started to do with this particular engine here, we have the yacht armor taking up this exhaust area. Now, a lot of you already know what happens in here, so we placed yacht armor here just to take care of the exhaust damage that this little panel is going to receive. And because we use yacht armor right here, you'll be able to wipe off the exhaust extremely quick and keep that paint looking glossy for many years. And even ceramic coatings can't do that. And I know this, even with the wet application, they just can't hold up. So check that out. Of course, ask for yacht armor when you're considering protection on the vessel. And we're gonna talk about the hull size and custom paints right now for that reason. All right, now we have the talk about metallic custom paints. There's a couple schools of thought here. You could certainly ceramic coat, And that's gonna give you an easy, clean surface, but it's also gonna allow for the wash marks over time, if you're using a brush, which you shouldn't, to go into the coating. But the coating is more sacrificial, and you can pull it off and you can polish, but it is better at ultimately handling water spots sometimes. But at the end of the day, you can't beat film. And that's why yacht armor on hull sides like this would be the best possible outcome, the best product that you could use. And why? Well, it's really hard to blend this paint. And of course, finding that painter in your area is always a challenge, and the downtime as well as another. I always want to tell people, look, if your budget allows, always try to opt for film, because it's so much more hardy and durable. And you're talking about an 8mm thick film that can actually self-heal from just rubbing and washing, not from running it into the dock, of course, but it's also extremely glossy. So when you want to enhance the gloss and put a piece of film to protect your custom paint, yacht armor is the absolute best option that you could do. And of course, right above that hull side, we have our rub rail. Now, this again is something that's going to discolor over time. It's going to be hard to clean. So coating that individually is really important. This is another DNX application that we do there. And that's going to be something that, you know, after multiple prep and cleans, just to make sure it's superior white, we're going to do that at the very end. This is almost like tying your shoelaces for us. At the very end, that rub rail is the last thing, just from dragging things over, climbing over it. So here again, we're getting to the bottom of the job and the task work. Now we're at the actual bottom. Now this has another high solids 2-part coating on it. So this is a very unique type of product, one that's made in America and really very small batch. I'm not gonna over embellish that, but it is. It's very small batch, but it's very high durability, high solids. It is really cool because we don't have the rainbowing issue, which we've had with Permex, Infinex, DNX. All those coatings can't do what this does. And because of the 100% solids that it carries, it will not basically refract or refragment, whatever the word is, where it actually rainbows. And that's really important because over time, we've done it. It looks really bad. So our bottom coating, even just on the ceramic level, is top of the line. You really cannot find this in all of the competitors' product lineups. And I know this because I've been in the industry for 15 years and I keep my thumb on it. One other option, if you're gonna look for performance, if you're gonna look for the need to replace the bottom paint that you were supposed to get, or even if you're just worried about the 2 or 3 months you spend in the Bahamas, you have the ability to use the ceramic epoxy Armis Hull Pro. Now, I like that for any vessel. In fact, I think it's one of the best finishes I've ever seen in this market in my entire career so far. And the reason is it's so hard. It doesn't come off from trailering, bunking on your lift. It doesn't come off because you're running. It doesn't come off because you clean it. That is a massive leap ahead compared to some of the other competitive products we've used in the clear foul release marketplace. And of course, we know better because we've done all those products for many years. But for the bottom, Armis Hull Pro, that is the absolute top performer that you should be considering on your center console fishing vessel. So if you're wondering how our customers are getting 50% more out of their ceramic coatings that we install for them year over year, you're looking at it right here. This is one of the best, most figured out, most effective, and easiest to use aftercare systems that you can get in the marketplace. We don't just skip to the next formula because it's new and hot. We work with reliable products that are proven every day right here on the DNA coating facility grounds, and of course out there in the elements when we do our monthly maintenance. Now, if you want to learn more about how to get these products to use for you in the best technique, the best possible way, go and hit that link below and watch our aftercare video. And if you want to get your hands on these products, then go over to ceramicdna.com. So from bow to stern, we already know your concern. It's all about how do I maintain something so freaking massively awesome and also do it easily. Well, that's what we've created here at the DNA Surface Concepts Coating Lab. 15 years of my personal time going into this industry has led us to know every tool, technique, and technology available that will only yield the best results. And this facility itself gives us the perfect umbrella to work year-round in and control our processes so we can give you the best outcome. Now, if you're looking for more information, I'm sure that there's something that you'll always have a question about even after a lengthy video like this, but you can DM us or just call Shar in the office because she is my Cliff Notes version. And of course, quoting is easy. We're able to do that via email with you, and digital tracking is another thing we do for you during the process. We take videos, we send you, we interact with you, keep you into the project, basically giving you a little bit of vision into our process so you can see what's going on during the whole thing. And that's basically it. That's all I have to say now. Once again, I'm Sean Kelly of DNA Surface Concepts, and keep it smooth as fuck.